My mother-in-law pulled me aside a day before my wedding and handed me a contract, asking for 40% of my income after marriage every month for my fiancé's future because she plans on being a sahm. And when I confronted my fiancé, she revealed it was her idea and that she won't get married unless I sign it. So I smiled and signed it with a smile before doing this at the altar. So I was supposed to get married last week, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. I pulled off a pretty gutsy stunt in front of all my friends and family, and now my ex-fiancé's family and my own family are both extremely upset with me. For context, my fiancée Chelsea, 26, female, and I, 28, male, had been together for the past 3 years. We met through friends, and even though we knew that we were very different from each other, we hit it off. After dating for a year, she moved in with me as well. We were getting serious, and eventually, we had a talk about our future, and we decided that we were sure about each other. We agreed that we wanted to marry each other and start a family before 30, and she also made it known to me that after having kids, she didn't want to work anymore. She wanted to devote her time to her children and would be a stay-at-home mom. I was completely fine with that because I work in a tech company, I make good money, so I believed that I would be able to support my family. And Chelsea was not going to quit her job until we had our first kid, so I had assumed that since she would be working until then, we would also have saved enough money together. This is why I don't understand why she came up with some stupid contract which she wanted me to sign and agree that I would give up 40% of my income every month and transfer it to her account so her future would be secure. As if the contract was not bad enough, she decided to spring it on me about a day before the wedding, knowing that I wouldn't be able to do anything at the time. It was just the way she had been so sneaky about everything that ticked me off because I had proposed to her almost 10 months back, so she had almost a year to tell me about her plans. We could have discussed this. I could have spoken to her, and we could have come to a common ground, but instead, she tried to deceive me. The day before the wedding, my mother-in-law, Donna, decided to visit me in the evening with the contract. After she showed the legal document to me and explained it all, I couldn't believe it. I thought that it was Donna trying to pull a fast one on me, so I decided to go speak to Chelsea about it in person. Donna and I went to her room to settle this, and that's when Chelsea told me that this had actually been her idea, and my world came crashing down around me. She told me that she had been thinking about this for a couple of months leading up to the wedding, and because this was kind of sensitive, she couldn't think of an appropriate way to bring this up. But now, apparently, before she committed to the wedding, she wanted me to sign this contract so she would have some sort of financial security. I was obviously very upset. I tried to reason with her because it was literally the day before the wedding, and I couldn't think of any other way to deal with the situation. I tried to tell her that 40% of my income is a lot of money, and since she wouldn't even be quitting her job until she had her first child, I couldn't understand why she needed this so quickly. I also couldn't understand why she had drawn up legal paperwork for something like this because it just made me feel like she didn't trust me. We had an argument, and she told me that I was reading too much into this, and I was upset with her because she had been very sneaky about this whole thing. After a while, she put her foot down, and she told me that she was not getting married if I did not sign that contract, and that was it. So in the heat of the moment, I decided to just put on an act. I smiled, signed the contract, and then I left and went back to my room without another word. But I was obviously not done with it. I was hurt and I felt betrayed, and so I decided that I was going to address this at the wedding in front of everyone. I don't know if it was right or wrong, I guess I'm going to find out from the comments, but at that point, I just wanted to humiliate Chelsea and her mother because I was incredibly disappointed with both of them. Anyway, the next day, everything went smoothly up until the point at which we were supposed to be at the altar. She said her vows, and I was supposed to say mine, but instead, I brought out the contract from my pocket, and I read it out to everyone publicly. Obviously, everyone was very confused, and I could see Chelsea going red in the face, but I didn't stop. I went on to explain the contract to everyone, and I told them that this wedding was no longer happening because obviously Chelsea did not trust me. And after what had happened the previous evening, I did not trust her either, because she had chosen to be sneaky with me and tried to trick me into committing to something like this instead of doing the normal thing, having a discussion with me and coming to a conclusion that both of us found acceptable. After a relationship of almost 3 years, if we couldn't even trust each other, then there was no point in getting married and ruining each other's lives. And after that, I tore up that contract into as many pieces as I could and then walked out of the venue without even looking back. I got into my car, and since I had already packed my bags and put them in my trunk, all I had to do was drive for a while and find a different hotel. And that's where I have been staying since. Both our families pretty much lost their minds after my stunt at the wedding and have been going off about it. Apparently, the situation after I walked out had been predictably chaotic because Chelsea broke down into tears, and her family started trying to comfort her. And my family started trying to do some damage control with the guests and stuff. Once the situation had been brought under control and most of the guests had left, our families had a long discussion, and both of them had agreed that what I did was completely unnecessary. Even if I did not want to marry Chelsea after finding out about the contract, I could have just told her about it and avoided all that drama. They said that the fact that I even had a chance to sleep on it and do the right thing but had chosen to humiliate Chelsea publicly and make our families the laughing stock of all the guests present at the wedding makes me even worse than Chelsea, because at least what she had done had only hurt me. But what I had done had hurt Chelsea, her family, and even my family. So now they want me to issue a public apology for my behavior and tell people that I've been going through a lot of mental stuff, which is why I did that. I don't think that's fair, though, because I haven't been going through a lot. I just thought that what Chelsea and her mother tried to do was disgusting, and I didn't like it. Yes, I will admit that what I did was dramatic, theatrical even, but I can't say that it was an overreaction. I think she totally deserved it. I really don't understand why my family thinks this ruined their reputation or why they even think they have a reputation that can be ruined in the first place. As far as I know, we're not that important. People will gossip about this for a couple of days and then forget about it. At least I'll have the satisfaction of knowing I got back at someone who tried to screw me over. If not satisfaction, then at least I'll have a cool story to tell people. The truth is, I didn't do it for either of those reasons. I just did it because I was very upset that almost 3 years of my life had been completely wasted with Chelsea. Honestly, I do want to get married and start a family, but now I have to start all over again with somebody else, and I don't even know if it's going to be the same. I'm also very upset about a lot of other things because I really love Chelsea, and I still have a soft spot for her. That's why I'm even bothering to rethink what I did. Anyway, since almost a week has passed since the incident, I've started to have second thoughts. But I still don't feel too inclined to publicly apologize to anyone. Am I the bad guy for not wanting to apologize after I humiliated my ex, Fawn, her family, and even my family at our wedding, which never ended up happening? Edit. Just to be clear, I don't have a problem with the fact that she was asking for financial security for her future. I think that was pretty clear. I mentioned it in the beginning that she told me she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom after we had kids, and I was completely fine with it. In fact, even if she had come up with a prenup or something, I would have been fine with that too. All I wanted and expected from her was an honest and upfront discussion about all this. It's not like we never talked about finances. We'd been together for 3 years and lived together for 2, so of course we discussed our finances, and we had always had a clear line of communication with each other, at least about these things. I really can't understand why she couldn't feel comfortable enough to bring this up with me earlier. It's not like I ever gave her a reason to doubt me. And contrary to what a lot of people are suggesting, I'm not even really mad about her wanting part of my salary for herself. What really didn't sit right with me was the timing. She wanted me to start sending her money right after we got married. As far as I knew, she would only quit her job after we had kids. Then, of course, it would be different, and our living arrangements would change, but for now, we could have just stuck to what we'd been doing for the past 2 years. I know I'm all over the place right now, but honestly, this really hurts. I've tried my best to be a good boyfriend and always respected her decisions. To find out that she tried to deceive me and trick me into something like this, it's just bizarre. There was no need for it, and I don't understand why she ruined everything we had with this contract situation. Anyway, the damage is done, and right now, both of our families are against me. She hasn't even bothered to speak to me since I walked out. I don't have any expectations from anyone at the moment. I just hope this blows over soon, so I can start moving on from everything. Update 1. Hi, thanks for all the comments and advice. It's been a couple of days since I posted, and I still haven't decided what I want to do. I'm definitely not apologizing to anyone, that's for sure. I haven't spoken to Chelsea or her family because I don't think I owe them an answer. I'm not married to Chelsea, they aren't going to be my in-laws anymore, and as far as I'm concerned, we're done. I don't think there's any chance of us ever patching things up, so it's over for good. That just leaves my family to deal with, and they're the only ones I care about. I had been ignoring them for the last few days because I didn't know what to say, but yesterday, I finally spoke to my parents. I wanted to talk in person, but they couldn't make the trip, so we had the conversation over FaceTime. I explained my situation to them, and while talking, I actually ended up crying. I've been holding back my feelings for the past week since the incident, and I guess they finally realized how shattered I was and started comforting me. They finally tried to understand where I was coming from, instead of constantly attacking me and telling me that I had ruined our reputation. I shared my feelings with them and admitted that, yes, what I did might have been unnecessary, but at least I got the satisfaction of standing up for myself. I needed that, even if it was petty, and I didn't care what others thought. What mattered was what the people I cared about thought. I hadn't spoken to my friends, but I knew they were on my side, thanks to the supportive messages and emails they left for me. That only left my parents, and I told them I really needed them to be there for me because I was going through something difficult. I also told them I understood their concerns about our family's reputation, but I reminded them we're not public figures. People will gossip for a while, but then they'll move on to the next big thing. Being afraid of gossip is no reason for them to be fighting with me, especially when I need their support the most. Once they understood that, we were able to clear the air. TLDR, my parents and I reached common ground, and things are fine between us now. Update 2. Hi, it's been 3 days since my last update. Late yesterday evening, I made up my mind that today I would go back home. I paid half of the rent, and honestly, I couldn't afford to stay in the hotel forever. I had to go back at some point, and I think Chelsea should be the one to leave. I don't understand why she hasn't bothered to contact me, but I packed my stuff and went back home this morning. Since the wedding incident, only Chelsea's parents have been trying to get in touch with me, but she hasn't said anything. I was nervous about going home because I didn't know what to expect. I had my keys, so I let myself in, and, surprisingly, I found the place much emptier than before. After looking around, I realized Chelsea had moved out without saying a word to me. I understood that. She probably didn't want to talk, which was completely fine with me. I didn't have anything to say to her either. I was just relieved that she moved out without me having to ask, so now I can stay in my own home without worrying about the arrangements. I don't know where she went, probably back to her parents' or a friend's place, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's been a significant amount of time since the wedding, and now that I'm back in my own home, I decided to start replying to everyone who'd texted me. Until now, I'd only spoken to my parents because I didn't want to talk to anyone else. Frankly, I wouldn't even have spoken to my parents if they hadn't been upset by my actions at the wedding. I had to fix things with them. I started responding to messages and emails, updating my friends about how I was doing. Most of them were concerned, and none of them really brought up Chelsea. They probably didn't want to bring up anything sensitive. I told them I was doing better now, which isn't exactly true. I'm still struggling to sleep at night and come to terms with the fact that Chelsea is truly gone. But it's not like they can do anything about it, so that's what I'm going with. Anyway, I'm trying to get back to normal. I've returned to work, though I'm currently working from home because I really can't face my coworkers after the fiasco at the wedding. Even though they told me they totally understand and wouldn't judge me, I guess I just need a bit more time to come to terms with everything myself. Still, at least I've come back home, which is a big step in itself. Baby steps from here on out. Update: it's been 3 weeks since the wedding, and until now, I haven't been responding to Chelsea's parents. They've been texting me nonstop, trying to reach out about one thing or another, but I really don't want to talk to them. I haven't even read those messages because I assumed it was all pointless. Initially, they wanted me to issue a public apology for my behavior at the wedding, and I figured that's what the recent messages were still about, given that they haven't received what they wanted. But today, they actually showed up at my house and started demanding to speak to me. I was a bit alarmed, but I decided to talk to them to get it over with once and for all since this was really starting to get on my nerves. When I asked what they wanted, they told me they wanted me to repay them the amount they contributed to the wedding. I was shocked because this request seemed bizarre to me. As far as I was concerned, the wedding had actually taken place. It's not like we canceled anything. Both of our families had contributed equally, so I couldn't understand why they were demanding money from me. I obviously made it very clear to them that I was not repaying anything to them and told them to get away if that's what they were here for, but they told me I was being unfair because they had spent a bomb on the wedding as well. Because of me, it had all been ruined, so now I owe it to them to pay them back because it was my ego that had ruined everything. They even said that, unlike my family, they couldn't afford to throw that kind of money away, and since I had been responsible for the wedding getting called off, I had to do the right thing. Now, the way they were accusing me of being egoistic and putting the blame on me just made me really upset. Besides, I haven't exactly been doing well for the past couple of weeks, so I lost it at them. I stepped out of my house and started screaming in their faces. They were really shocked by this behavior, but I couldn't care less. I just went on and on. They had messed up by trying to kick me when I was down already. I told them that it was not my fault that their daughter didn't have the guts to come and talk to me like a normal person and had to spring the contract on me like a surprise at the very last minute. And if they really didn't think that there was anything wrong with that either, they had very screwed up definitions of right and wrong, or maybe that's just how their family was. They functioned like that and expected me to adapt to it. But I'm sorry, I'm not one for deception, and I don't take it kindly either. I also told them that I had always treated Chelsea with love and respect, but the night before the wedding, when I confronted her about the contract situation, I realized that if I did end up marrying her, it would be the biggest mistake that I ever made, and I'm really happy that I decided to walk out. And if they really want to talk about ego, they should probably go ahead and talk to their daughter about it because she's the one who ruined everything with her ego even the evening before the wedding. It would have been very easy for her to just apologize to me, and we could have talked things out. I was ready to do that for her because we spent a lot of time together, we know each other really well, and I wasn't willing to give up on us. But clearly, she was willing to do so because she had clearly said that if I did not sign that contract and get married to her on her terms, then she would not get married at all. So naturally, it was clear that her ego was more important to her than getting married to her fiancé. She's the one who ruined everything, and Donna was the one who stood by her every step of the way. As for the money, I didn't even owe them a penny because it had been their choice to contribute to the wedding expenses. Nobody had talked them into agreeing to it or forced them to do so, so to ask me to repay them and bring up my family and stuff was completely unnecessary. They were just trying to create drama out of nothing, and I was not going to have it because their daughter has created enough of a nuisance in my life already. I don't need more. After I was done screaming at them, they tried to argue, but I wasn't in the mood to have it, so I walked back inside, slammed the door as hard as I could, and told them to get the heck off my front porch, or there would be serious consequences. They decided to take that seriously finally and got back into their car and drove away. Once that was done, I took a couple of minutes to calm down, and then I decided that I was going to have to speak to Chelsea about this because this sort of behavior was completely unacceptable, and she needed to bring her parents under control. I had no idea if they had shown up with Chelsea's knowledge or not, but I still called her up, and that was the first time that I spoke to her since the wedding. She didn't answer the first few times that I called her, but when I didn't stop, she finally picked up, and she sounded pretty annoyed. But then, before she could say anything to make the situation worse, I decided to fill her in on what her parents had just done. I told her how they had shown up, blamed me for everything, and we had just had a shouting match with each other. From her reaction, I guessed that she had no idea about this, and after I told her everything, she immediately started apologizing to me and dropped the annoyed act. She told me that she had no idea that her parents were going to do something. She was at work, and she had already tried to tell her parents not to bother me after they started bombarding me with messages and phone calls trying to get me to apologize publicly. She said that she was not even on board with that and had told them not to bother me anymore, but they hadn't stopped, and she felt terrible about this. It was obvious that she was quite embarrassed, so I didn't want to make her feel worse, which is why I just told her that it was fine. They had shown up today, but after this, I wouldn't want them coming around anymore, and I hoped that she would understand. She agreed, and we were silent for a couple of minutes before we ended the phone call after saying goodbye to each other. Of course, there were a lot of things that we did not say, but it made me very emotional to hear her voice after so long. I don't know if it was the same for her or not, but I know that I felt kind of strange. At least this conversation did not end on a bitter note, and we did not bring up anything that had happened at the wedding. But it's not like we don't need to talk about it and address that at some point. I don't know why, even though we have broken up for good, I feel like I still need to talk to her and get some closure. I mean, after being together for 3 whole years, I think that's the least that we can ask of each other. But this conversation was nice too. I just really hope that she reaches out to me at some point later on and we get to talk about whatever had happened at the wedding. Anyway, until then, I'm going to continue trying to move on. I've started planning out what I want to do for the future because now that all my plans for the past 3 years have been derailed, I need to think of something so I don't lose hope. I've been thinking about starting my own business, and in a couple of days, I'm going to talk to my father about it and get him to come on board as an investor or something. I'm hoping that things go well. Let's see. I probably won't be very active in the next couple of weeks unless something worth mentioning happens, so until then, goodbye and thank you for all the advice and support. After 3 months, a lot has changed. I quit my job and am working on my own business, with my dad's support. We've moved past our previous disagreements, and I'm now on good terms with my parents. Chelsea's family hasn't bothered me since our last fight, and I've been reconnecting with friends and family. Recently, I ran into Chelsea, and we talked, bringing closure. She admitted her mistakes, and we cleared the air. We're not friends, but we're no longer enemies, and I feel ready to move forward without the past holding me back.